been about a year since I've done any Japanese imports, and I've decided to do one again. This is 3 machines out of 4 that have been imported, have just arrived this morning. The 4th one's quite a big one, so that's going to come in its own video. But I've got 3 little Sanyos here, just like the nursery rhyme. And if you've seen the previous video of the M-S300LG that I repaired, the silver one, these are the Japanese market equivalent, which they called the U4. And they also made a little one called the Town U4, which is lighter, guess more portable. It's incredibly light. It runs off AA batteries. And I was not aware that a white one existed until I found it on a Japanese auction site. The black one I was aware it existed, and that one was basically buy it now, pretty cheap. So I decided, sod it, I'm going to pick up the set. They're all in fairly rough condition. The black one might be the worst, and I haven't power tested any of them or anything like that yet. The interesting thing about these, I may have mentioned in the video of the U4, the second version that I did. I should say that the Mark II, if you like, of that machine that I did for my friend in Berlin. I was quite fascinated, I spoke about in that video at the time, quite fascinated with the marketing differences between Western machines and the Japanese domestic market machines, and especially in the way that Sanyo used this little sausage dog icon to sort of denote and market these machines, which were very compact and that kind of proportion. I think today I'm going to work on the little one first. So let's have a proper look at this then. It's got a very floppy handle. I'm not sure if it was meant to be like that, but I might see if we can do anything about that. The sides of the handle are plastic, they're not metal. I can see some wear on the corners there that are showing the plastic underneath. That's probably to keep weight down and cost, I guess. There is unfortunately some chipping of the silver paint, or silver, it's probably not paint, it's probably aluminium deposit on the buttons. I think they should have a shiny edge, if you can just see there, and it's that shiny edge on the play button that's wearing out. There is some corrosion on the volume knob that should be the same. The antenna looks quite mucky and a little bit corroded, but it's all there. So I think that will clean up fine, but I'm going to remove that to clean that. Both screws are in the handles. Handle's got this really nice little red stripe along the top. This machine was brought over actually to the Western market. I've seen, it wasn't called the Town, it wasn't called the U4. I forget the model number of it, I will try and find it, but it's quite common if you look for this Sanyo line to find a yellow one that was made for the Western market, which is really nice looking. But I don't think it was that long before they moved to a Mark II design and kept that shell for quite a long time actually, up to about, I think, the very early 90s. And that shell of the second model was kind of the basis for those sort of revival units that came out under various brands a few years back. I definitely recognise some of the details on that as a Mark II Sanyo Town. And I think there was another one as well that it was kind of loosely based on a Sharp design, but the proportions were a bit off, but you could kind of tell that they'd taken all their cues from the Sanyo Town. But I think it's way nicer to have an original one and to have one of the first edition ones as well. I just think this is super cute. I love I love this. For your active and beautiful music life. I've got a real sort of weakness for sort of questionably translated bits of Western text on Japanese things. It is all in English actually, apart from on the back in the moulding we've got just some of the info and power requirements and everything written in Japanese. Something there in Japanese, not sure what that is, but the battery requirements, the battery compartment and everything there. There's a little bit of green on that spring, it's a bit bent, but that generally looks very clean. Takes 6 AA batteries. The original foam is fine. Whatever Sanyo used, it must have been good stuff, because it's a little bit flattened, where some batteries have definitely been in it, but it's not breaking down, at least not yet. So it looks like we've got 7 screws to come out of the casing, and then there's the antenna screw there. There's a lot of, I think I'm going to remove the antenna on this one if possible, because there's a lot of crap in there. You can see it's pretty gross. So let's actually, because this is 9 volts, it is positive center, I think 9 volts. Let's get a 9 volt battery and an adapter and see if we can just power test it. So I've got a polarity swap cable here running off a 9 volt battery, because this lead I've got is usually for guitar pedals which have negative center. This has got positive center. So let's just, oh yeah, does power up. Just saw a tune light there. Oh yeah, so the tune light's coming on. Obviously I'm not really getting any FM radio reception, and nothing strong, I wouldn't think. Just move it off the desk and see if it works.
Most of them are pretty good about it, they just don't have it too.
Okay, so moving it away from the bench, yeah, the radio is functioning. Got balance control, that is working. That has a slightly different sound between left and right. Might be something with the radio. I don't hear the tone control doing anything. I wonder if that's only cassette, because it says metal playback there. Also feels very loose. It's definitely coming to end stops, but it feels quite loose, more so than that, which has a center to tent, which is nice. I just heard a motor there on the cassette deck go grrr and then stop, and now it's not doing anything. Let's do this off the bench power supply and monitor current draw. Oh, now it's going. I wonder if it was just... Yeah, there's quite a high current draw when it first starts up at 300 milliamps, but nothing is moving, so I suspect... Yeah, I suspect we've got belts there that have gone. Sounds like a little engine. Okay. Yeah, the current, there must be some restraint somewhere there, because it settles down to about 180 milliamps, 200 milliamps, but its peak's quite high. Okay, so the motor does run. I think that battery's probably a little bit flat. Let's get and just try the radio. No, it definitely doesn't like the stuff around the bench. It blocks out all the FM. Interesting, we've got an FM mute button as well, which will sort of squelch out the interference noise until it locks onto a signal. That's evidently a bit scratchy, so that one's looking at. The usual stuff to be expected. So let's open it up, see what we've got. That one is a machine screw, which is smaller. It does say L20 next to it. I thought it felt different when I was undoing it. I don't... Checking there's no light under there. Don't think I feel anything under there. Let's see. Nope. And... oh, interesting. Okay, so the actual battery contacts are there. So the back just comes straight off. Well, that's neat. See a lot of the muck in there. There's a contact there, copper contact for the... oh, it's there for the antenna. That must be some sort of shielding then. It looks like a copper shield. Imagine if you had a battery leak, that'd be the first thing to go. So yeah, there's a contact there for the antenna. So we could take the antenna off the back panel. Yes, so a small machine screw, and then yeah, the antenna comes straight out, and something. Oh, the bracket, the contact bracket has just come out. So that will pop straight out, and I can bath that out properly. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, that's cool. I thought that might be a belt pulley, but no, it seems to be some sort of contact pulley. And I can't see anything from here that looks like it should have a belt around it. I think we'll have to have this board out, I think. So it looks like there's a screw there, there's a nut there for something that looks like it goes through to a support for the switches and sockets. But we've got a screw there, a screw there, and that one looks like it goes through to the tape deck. And then I wonder if there's something under that. Oh, that also comes out. Alright, so I'm going to try removing these screws. So again, those two look identical there and there. And this one. Does already feel quite loose. I think perhaps we'd have to remove, there we go, the tuning knob and the volume control. Yes, straight out. Oops. Oh, handle comes out. Okay, the handle lifts straight out, that's cool. So that little screw where it was soldered has a little washer around it. Okay, something is definitely pulling on that tape door. Got it. Okay, so there's a little sort of loop there that you have to remove from a little peg on the side of the door. So the door must be removed in order to get that away, and then it looks like that will then slide down perhaps. All I had to do was yes, you have to remove that door, and then that little loop part which is there, to make sure you push that back in so that it doesn't snag on the front of this, just this little escutcheon here in the front cabinet. If you push that back, then the bottom of it will unlatch, and you just have to kind of finagle this down and around these switches. These two little felt pads, which interestingly are white or cream, not black. They usually dyed black. Just came out of the just over the top of the switches there, so should imagine now that might allow us to get those switch tops off. To clean them, yeah, they just pull straight off, and they should be. That was a bit stuck on. They should be the same. They're a little bit faded. This one is one of those push button ones with a spring underneath. I'm not going to pull that one off for now. It might not come off. A little bit of something under there, whether it's been cleaned or it's some sort of oil or cleaner. So yeah, we've got also down at the bottom here, we've got a little support for the mic, which also has this little plastic L bracket on the side of it. When it's screwed in, just adds a little bit of support to the volume control, so it doesn't get pushed down, which is a nice little touch. And that little nut on the back of the board is what holds this little switch assembly in down here, because the actual switch is buried way back there. That's for the beat cut and wide stereo. I didn't know it had wide stereo, but faintly on the side it says position 2 wide. So sure enough it does. So yeah, there's a little bit of dust and stuff, and sure enough the belts are there. But they're just starting, there we go, they're just starting to break up. So just cut that at the right point. Yeah, I can feel it sticking to the flywheel there. So just cut that in time, and then the counter belt, which is very thin, it's almost like a Walkman belt, that doesn't actually feel as bad. But it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 black screws that should remove this plate, and we'll have to start bagging these up. The top one, that one is longer, and it's got a countersunk flat head on it. Oh, now then. This has got, I didn't see, this has got a big spring assembly attached to it. Oh, that's actually got, yeah, basically the entire tape mechanism is on this on this bracket. Okay, it's not just a bracket that lifts off, the whole thing is there. They have to go between the gears, that's a bit odd. The pulley is on the back, but to get the belt to the back it would have to be pulled through the gears. I really need to figure out how to get this out so I can lift out the capstan. I'm aware that there's a spring under here as well. There's a sort of mylar sheet. Oh, I've got it. I've got it, and that must go around. Ah, okay, I have to be careful here. There's a tiny spring on the capstan there, and that goes on top, and that has a little contact pulley there that goes against this one. That's got a little bit sticking out that goes over the front of this. Wow, this is bonkers. So that gets caught up in between the gears, unless you took the C-clip out, took that out. But the actual pulley for the counter is on the back. That's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Alright, that means I can separate that. What a fascinating mechanism. Take that gear off, take that tiny spring off, and both of those springs I need to put in a bag. So that means there was probably a split ring. Yeah, I see it. So there's also a split ring, or at least a oil stopping ring. There we go, on the front of the capstan. They're the ones that always get lost, so that again needs to go in that bag with the springs. Again, I do wonder if this is a similar mechanism to something that was used in their Walkmans. I've never seen anything like that where a whole central section comes out of a block and it's just the way the pulleys sort of rub together that do the, so that's the clutch mechanism. And it's all kind of on one thing. Fascinating. I hope that's not going to be too much of a challenge to get back together. Got some dust to get out of it. Overall it does look pretty clean. I'm not seeing any rust or corrosion really. There's some dust, that's to be expected, but the shape of it overall is looking pretty good. I do have to get the speakers out because I have to get the grills off the front because they're going to want stripping and repainting because they're in rough shape. And it looks like there are 2 screws there. Is that a screw as well? I think that's a screw. There's a flat cutout on that to get a screwdriver in, and a little black screw there. Oh, I've just noticed that though. Is that for the motor mount? That's cracked. That should be like that. Free to spin now, feels okay. I wonder if that will work. No, not certain where the, oh, it's there. Aha, yeah, the leaf spring is down there. Little leaf switch that I can see will want to clean. That motor is a little bit grumbly. Drop of oil might help it, but you'd be a little bit grumbly if you'd been woken up for the first time since 1982. Okay, I managed to pick out the bit where the belt's stuck. You can see sort of one side it did and one side is really clean, so we'll do the usual. Get that in the ultrasonic cleaner, a little touch of citric acid and a little bit of soap. We'll just get all that crap out of there. I think for now I'm going to remove the speaker screws so I can get to the grills and remove that wiring as well. Tiny. With the giant dust cap there by comparison. Okay, so that's interesting. It looks like they've got a is that foam? Is that just whatever the treatment they use? I don't think it's foam edge, but whatever the sort of stuff they use on the paper edge actually comes quite close to the centre to give it more suspension in the small speakers. Interesting little speaker, the magnet on the back. 6 ohms. Alright, so we'll have those out. Looks like the wiring is glued into this section. Interesting, there's a ground strap here to the aluminium top, and that goes to the ground side of one of the speakers. So that goes on that side. So it looks like that runs along front of the tape mechanism. There is a little folded over retainer down there that goes around all that wiring, which is the speaker, the motor, the tape, no, the speaker, the motor, the other speaker, think that's everything because the tape heads are actually here. Yeah, and again there's a ground strap there for the motor. We'll have to look at that, won't we? So now I've got that, can I get the tape mechanism loose? So a little silver screw there, a little silver screw there, next to that a counter pulley, they're the same. They hold the motor in, so I don't need to remove them, but there's a black screw there. That's quite long. Yep. Cool. And then there's this. It's actually a screw socket with a flat section cut in it for putting a screwdriver in to undo it. That corner, and yeah, that removes the tape mechanism. Just a little bit fiddly because of the stop key. That's the pause key. I'll finagle that around the pause key. And the counter button. Yeah, there we go. So that has just come off. I'm gonna have to figure that out. And there's also, I think I ought to remove this actually. There's a little washer there that the capstan will ride against, because this is the back, isn't it? So I think I ought to bag that up. Little black washer where the capstan goes through. So there's some more glue. There we go. Okay, there we go. Got it. So there's our front panel. Now hopefully I can bend these tabs in. Okay, managed to do it. Bending all the corner tabs up. You can also bend the tabs up of the chrome surrounds because they're actually metal. Just be aware that there is this sort of brace part here that goes between the front and back buttons. Actually just comes straight out. It's this sort of four-shaped part there that just slides into two little points like that. So if you want to do the old Channel 4 jingle, then I suppose you could do that. But yeah, I'm going to give all that a bath. Need to keep those scraps of belt just so I've got a rough guide for, I don't think I'm going to get sizes off there, but thickness. I think I'm going to go through what I've got and see if I've got anything that will fit. But as for now, both of these need a flipping good bath. I've just spotted 58,520 on the motor. So converting the 58, which is the Japanese year to Western year, that's the 20th of May 1983. So I was about right. This is a 1983 machine. Okay, catch up. All the casings had a wash and started doing a little bit of detailing. There are some black marks on this that are proving really difficult to get off. I wonder if it's been pressed against something in storage, maybe a bag or I don't know, but something that's actually sort of discoloured the plastic in a way that something's actually seeped into the plastic, a little bit like if you leave a PVC cable laying against ABS, the plasticizers from the PVC cable will kind of melt the ABS plastic. I don't see any deformation in the actual shape of it, but I can kind of feel something there, and I've been trying to get it out with a little bit of sort of plastic polish or something like that. Actually there may be a little bit of deformation on the edge, so yeah, it could have been that it was laid against something like a PVC cable or a PVC bag, maybe something like that, and it started to attack the plastic a little bit in places. So without being really kind of abrasive or chemically kind of brutal to it, I don't think I will have a lot of luck getting some of that out without being, yeah, really kind of heavy on it. There's a bit of a mark at the top there as well that I've managed to polish back a little bit, but again, I'm going to start taking off the pearlescent paint if I go too crazy with it, so I want to go steady there really. But yeah, it's cleaned up quite nicely. I may take these chrome rings out of there after all to polish them. I'll see. I'll never think about that, but something I found really fascinating in the construction of this, again, something that I couldn't tell until I got it in my hands. I couldn't really tell this from the pictures, is that you take this tape door, for example. This is made of two different kinds of plastic, and this silver part, what I thought would just be silver paint on the back of the plastic, it's not. It's an actual piece of aluminium that's been stamped and shaped and then printed on the surface of the aluminium. And then we've got the white pieces of plastic there that are painted with pearlescent paint, then screen printed in two colours. We've got 3-colour screen print going on the metal, and then the clear piece, and I think it's glued. I think it's all glued together. You can see a little bit of something there. But just the tape door on this, for something that was kind of made as like a small, portable, relatively low cost unit for, you know, almost a fashion accessory with a little dog on the front. I've spoke about this before, the way that if you'd have made something like this in a Western market, it would have been seen as a toy, and it would probably have been made just as cheaply and craply as possible. And the tape door is made from 3 different materials. You know, it's the quality of it is beautiful. I really love the print on the aluminium trim. It's got the aluminium trim on the top. It's not just printed on the plastic. There's actually a piece of metal there. Love the detail of the little Sanyo badge on that section. It's really, really nicely made. This mechanism, this really quirky little mechanism, yeah, there's a lot of plastic going on there, but it doesn't need to be metal. It makes it much more lightweight. But there's nothing crappy and, you know, cut corner about it. It's wonderful. I really feel sometimes like the stuff that we got in the West, you know, it feels like we got the dregs sometimes. The quality of the Japanese domestic market stuff sometimes is just fantastic. And this really is, especially, you know, just looking at that tape door, it's just a fantastic indicator of that. There is quite a bit of discoloration, obviously, and I'm debating what to do about that. As I said, I didn't expect that this would be painted. The plastic underneath is a sort of white or cream colour, but yeah, it's got like a pearlescent paint on it. Brass inserts, where the tape deck goes at the bottom, there's brass inserts for the screws. Again, that's a length to go to. It's not just a one-shot moulded plastic and that's it. They've actually put brass inserts in the front. Just the quality of it and the construction of it is just, for their, you know, kind of lower end fashionable, you know, youth market machine, it's great. Anyway, the other thing, I've cleaned up these speaker grills. It's amazing how much stuff's come off them actually. They did have a wash in the sink, and then they've had 2 or 3 goes through the ultrasonic cleaner. Now I think they're still going to have to be stripped and painted, because the more I'm ultrasonic cleaning them, the more the paint is starting to go where it was probably a little bit rusty underneath. It is starting to peel a little bit at the back there, so they are going to want painting again. I fully expected that, but I'm really surprised just how clean they've come up, really just from cleaning, and not just, you know, from being repainted yet. Yeah, that is quite a difference from, you know, what we started with. Definitely, they're almost presentable. But I did buy some white paint. It's gloss paint. This is matte paint, really. And I had to get some white gloss. I couldn't find white matte, but I think it will be fine. But yeah, that's quite impressive how good they've come up. As I say, you could almost get away with it, but they look much better than, you know, what we started with. But I think they're going to be stripped. One of the speakers I have cleaned and cleaned up that dust cap. That one I haven't done yet. You can see that one's quite dull and scruffy looking. I've been brushing out a lot of dust. I've cleaned and polished up the chrome speaker grill trims. I've repainted the grills. Now originally they would have been white, and I actually went and bought some white paint, and before I did it I kind of thought, no, that's going to be a mistake, because with this being painted, not bare plastic, I can't make this any whiter. And even the paint on the aluminium trim on the top is not like hard white, but if I put hard white painted speaker grills in there, I think it's just going to make this look awful. So I decided to, I rethought it and decided to go out and get some silver instead, because I think that will make a way better match against the aluminium. So I think, you know, you kind of get them in the right light. That with the black and chrome trim around it is going to look really smart. This is the volume knob. These controls are quite interesting. They are the tape buttons as well. The tops of them have a kind of matte silver or satiny silver finish, and then the very edges and the actual top of that did have like a chrome. I'm not certain if they are entirely done with aluminium deposit or if it's half paint, half deposit. It's kind of weird, but because it's been subjected at some point to damp, I think, and it's old, especially on these buttons here, they were a right old mess. On this kind of angled edge where it would have had the chrome, it's all peeled off, and I've tried cleaning this up and it's just a mess. So I was mulling over what to do about it, and whether to remove them and repaint them, which is what I'd like to do. Problem is they're kind of set onto the metal parts with some kind of epoxy that nothing will go through. It's so tough. Even the soldering iron will barely make a little dent in it. It's super tough. So I think it's going to come to it where I'm going to have to strip a lot of this mechanism and pull the whole pieces out. Thankfully the follow-up model to this uses exactly the same mechanism and a lot of the same gubbins, to be honest, and the service manual gives you a full exploded diagram of the transport, so I've got a service diagram, so I can figure out for a start where that bit went, stuff like that. But yeah, we've got 4 springs, a black screw, a sort of brassy silver coloured screw. Should take this piece off, and then these two, that's rewind and fast forward, I think, on the back, will come out. Yeah, I think I'll get my old ice cube tray out. Okay, I've got my, do you know, it looks like they're glued on top as well. I've got my ice cube tray, numbered it 1 to 4. If they're glued at the top, I might not need 1 and 2, because they might stay in place. No, they won't. No. Okay, so we only need 1 and 2 then, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes along this piece. These 2 screws go into the second hole. It might be this one that's glued. So that's 1. 4 is around that little peg there. That's it. They're in the 5th hole along that bar. So the black screw goes on that side. I'll put that in 1. The brass screw goes on that side. Yeah, they come straight out. Okay, that's cool. That's cool, I can leave that there then. Right, they're really greasy. So that's ideal, so now I can deal with those. Don't mind the greases. That's loosened the counter. So does that screw fix the counter through to the other side? It looks like it probably does. Just quickly, I think it's quite simple to get this pause key off the front. I think you can do it by holding the play button down, which swings this little arm up and reveals this little black screw and washer. And if we take those out, I think we can get this pause assembly straight off. And there is a spring, I believe, on the back of it. Yes, there's a spring there. So I just need to undo. That's it. So that was easy enough. Again, I'm going to leave that spring in place because I think it will stay there fine. The difficult one still is going to be, I think, this play assembly, and I might end up just desoldering wires and doing it in place. Right, I've removed the motor and the little ground strap there that goes on top of that. I think what I'm going to do is remove this head block. I don't think this plate is going to come out without a lot of fuss, so I've got to get to a screw, this screw, this side of the tape head, and I've got to remove these 2 wires that are sort of in this plastic clip, which are kind of glued down. There we go. So that I can get to that screw underneath. That's it. Which has got a ground tab on it itself. It's that one there. So it's that one and this one. And this one's got a spring assembly underneath it. That should hopefully, let's see. Okay, it goes around a peg actually. The spring has just pinged off. I think one end of the spring I think goes behind this peg on the back of the erase head. So that's one side, and the other side is a little bit obscured by that ground strap. Right, I think this big spring, which is pressed just underneath the plate there for the play button, I think that is holding down. Still feel like something else holding it in. Is it? Surely it's not the alignment head. Oh, could have been. Okay, it was. Now, the back of the spring is pressed behind that plate. We'll have to get tweezers. So there's actually 3 screws then. There's each side of the tape head. I'm obviously going to have to redo the alignment and demagnetise it afterwards. That's it, yes. Sit that there for now with everything in place. That's it, that's something else falling off it. Now that's off there, isn't it? That's off there, I believe. Again, I have to go right through the diagrams to suss this out. So hopefully you can see the state of the button at the front there. That's kind of what I'm contending with. This is why I'm having to refinish them, mask them up and spray them, because they just look and feel terrible. Painting them is not the ideal solution, but I can't leave them like that. Alright, another day's catch up. This is how I had to go about painting the play button with a bit of tape over the record button as well, by taping up the entire thing. So the play button's done and all the other buttons are done as well. They're better than they were. They're never going to be perfect. There's a little bit of an odd pattern on the top of the play button. I don't know if that will really come across there. The exposure might blow it out. And a tiny bit on the front. You know, I'm some guy stood in his backyard with a spray can. I'm never going to be, you know, getting a perfect result, but they're certainly better than they were. So I can't remember where I'm up to with the video footage, but just to mention, if I'm not already, the top's been done with the same silver paint that the speaker grills were done with. The front stripe and the beveled edge was just masked off and just given a spritz of Humbrol chrome silver spray paint. So on the forward and fast forward and rewind, they go that way, I think. The beveled edge goes to the back. So I did those first just to sort of practice it, because it's not as visible, and a tiny bit of a bubble or something on that one, and the edge is not quite perfect on that one, but again, they are what they are. And then you've got the pause key, which goes faces forward. That probably came out the best out of everything. I think I sort of gave that the lightest coat. It is peeling on that side where the aluminium was already good. I'm not bothered, because I'm going to clean that off, because I don't want it to rub on the sides. I'm less bothered about the sides being coated, but it was really just these chewed up front edges and the tops of them. Need to unpeel all that. In the process of doing this, I'm sure I've lost a tiny spring. It's the pressure spring under the tape head for the alignment. I'll be able to find something, I'm sure, that I can substitute that with. I'll have a spare part somewhere. One thing I've been neglecting to do, oh yeah, both speakers are cleaned as well. One thing I've been neglecting to do, and I really should do, is these thumb wheels here for the tone and balance. I should unscrew those and get those in the cleaner. I also did this button, the FM mute button, because that was all yellowed and horrible, so I had to mask off the whole thing. Cover it in a sheet of, because I can't get that button off, cover it in a sheet of aluminium foil and masking tape to get the whole thing off. And then I also did, there's the 2 little rocker switches for the function and radio band, I think they're for. Again, I've sprayed them with the chrome. I just cut the end off a used cotton bud, held it in the end, which is why my hands are now sort of covered in silver in places, because I look like an extra from Doctor Who or something by the time I'd done. Why I didn't just put a glove on, I don't know. It was kind of an impulse thing. But yes, these screws, and see, look, that one, and that little spring, I really should have taken out of the tape head and put in the ice cube tray that's right in front of my face, but for some reason I didn't. So that spring's now gone AWOL, so tough luck. You shouldn't have been so stupid. Also, I haven't bent the tabs back yet on these, but I've reassembled the front that's got the silver grills on. Dead happy with how that's come out. I think that's going to make the biggest impact, really. It's going to make the biggest difference. I've probably locked the exposure a bit too bright, I'm not sure, hopefully you can see that, but yeah, they look really good, really legit. I think that will really smarten it up when it's all done. So now that I've found the iFixit screwdriver, because it went missing on the other side of the bench for a few days, buried under some stuff, let's get these pots out here. So I want to set that to the middle. There is a little bit of thread lock glue, well not thread lock, but glue on the top of that. So I need to align that the same when I'm done with the red stripe at the top and the square of the 4 dots. So the one that dips down goes to that side, because they are different. I'm going to put the screw in 2, and this one with the black screw doesn't have a center detent, but I'm going to move that round. Well, we'll figure it out, won't we? And put that one in 3. Yep, that's right, because actually where the stripe is, if the stripe's at the top, that actually turns at an angle, so I can see how gross they are now. Not a lot of time on this today, because for one it's a really nice few days and I've got some garden work to do, so but I've got some belts for this. I'm just sort of reassembling the belts on this part and then trying to get this reassembled back into here. Then I will strap it around the motor when I refit the motor. The counter is here, of course, so the counter belt will be fine. Now the counter belt, if I grab the little topper here from the packaging, again as usual from Deck Tech, not a sponsor, just a really good supplier to me. The counter belt, it has to be really thin, so I've had to go for one of their 0.5mm belts, which is a 29mm diameter. I'm going to see if it fits. It almost looked a little too thin, not too thin, sorry, too short when I got it, but actually looking at it when it's sort of stretched out, and a thin belt will stretch a little bit more, I think it's going to be okay. I think the way they expect you to get it on is to take the little split ring out there, then lift the entire pulley off there, but don't think that's really necessary, because because it's such a thin belt, if you're careful you can just sort of get it between the teeth of these 2 gears and just sort of spin them round so it just clicks through the teeth, and then it will be ready to be pulled around that pulley at the back. It's weird that it's at the back and not at the front edge, but it's the way it is. So then that sits on there, that's not going anywhere. Then I'm going to have to put the capstan belt around this, a tiny drop of oil I think on the back of on the bearing I guess, and hope that it doesn't get on the belt, and then get this assembly back in. I think I've got everything there. There's a small spring that goes about 1/4 of an inch diameter that goes over that black post there where this lever is, and there's also the tiny spring and gear that have gone on the front of the capstan flywheel. That's had a little drop of oil in and it's gone in. So as I say, I just want to put a little drop of oil in for the bearing at the back, get the belt in place. So I need to find the belt for that, which I think was a 47.5 by 1, I think it was 1.2mm. So 47.5 by 1.2mm seemed to be the closest thing. Again, what was left of the belt, I measured the thickness of it and compared some belts that would about fit, but they weren't quite the right thickness of what I'd already got, and I think this size should be okay. Yeah, I think that will be just about right. Tiny drop of oil in the back of the bearing. We've got belts on, capstan plate all back. Mechanically this is running. I got too frustrated trying to do it on camera, I'm afraid, so it took several attempts to get this back on. I think I was doing it in a slightly different way. From what I've seen of a couple of other people attempt this model, they didn't take this plate off completely that I did, they just slipped the belt underneath. If you want to do this quicker, I think that's the way to do it. By taking all that off, there's a real sandwich of stuff that you've got to try and get kind of back together, and I'm still not fully convinced. There's like a spring here that seems to be just sort of floating about. I'm not sure that's quite right. Something to do with the auto stop mechanism. What I sort of ended up doing was taking the flywheel and capstan back out. Instead of putting it through this front piece, actually sitting it into the bearing on the back piece, because you've got to kind of mesh that in with some of the gears there. Then that gear with the 3 little slots and the spring's got to sit on top, and you've got to try and keep that locked in because it wants to pop forward because of the spring, and then try and get all this back together while all that is trying to fold in. And then you've got to try and get this auto stop arm kind of back in, and then the spring over the top. It's just a big sandwich of loads of stuff, and it was a real fiddle to do it. I almost don't recommend trying to get all that off unless you really want to get this flywheel cleaned, which I felt like I had to do because it was definitely bits of belt stuck on there. So I've done it, however, and I've screwed the motor back in and put this belt on. However, I might end up taking this off again. There's a couple of issues with the main board. If I just put the power on, it's tuned to radio 1, and I've got a clip lead antenna because fortunately there's a couple of points on the side. We've got a ground point and an antenna point that I can actually clip to. But if I put the power on and put the radio on, the tuning light is on because it's getting a strong signal. But notice when I disconnect the antenna, it gets way louder. I noticed this when I first got it. When you tune it into a station and it shows tuning, the volume drops. If I tune it slightly off, sometimes the volume will come back. But this is interesting. We're on the 9 volts here. If I drop the voltage way down, so low as it will go without cutting out, so 3.9 volts, so it will work. Then if I disconnect the antenna, because the signal's obviously weaker, it will go away. But if I bring that voltage back up, it peters out. Now the mute button, again, if I go back up with the voltage, is definitely working well. But interestingly, if I crank this up, you can still hear that. It does get louder when I connect the clip lead. So in mute, it's sort of working how I'd expect it to work. Right, scrap all that I just said. I did the thing that you're not supposed to do because I've not really got anything to lose on it, which was twiddle about with some of the alignment transformers a little bit. And just by pulling this one clockwise a little bit, I got it to pull in, and then just really fine tuning it, I got the FM mute to work, because it's kind of right on a knife edge. If you have this set too strong, the FM mute just won't mute, but now it does. So I think it was just slightly out of alignment, and I just had to pull it in by ear to make it work. I don't think anybody's ever been in it twiddling anything, but I just pulled that in a fraction, and it seemed to work. Now if I drop voltage, it will now cut off at the voltage. Oh no, it's still there. Yeah, it'll run right down to about 3.7 volts just. And as I bring up the voltage, it will kick in. That's pretty impressive then. You'll get a lot out of the batteries when it's aligned properly, if you're using it as a radio. But I think even the tape motor will function down to a very low voltage, but I can't imagine it would have any torque or be very stable. The amplifier circuit would really work down to that voltage. But I've got to sort out this tone pot. Yeah, it makes one side, it makes the one side cut out and go weird. The balance pot's perfect, but that's a different kind of pot. Now I absolutely could clean this by flushing some cleaner into the little holes there. I kind of did that on the top one, but obviously to get to the bottom holes, you're going to have to take the thing off. So I think what I'll do is clip some meter leads to it. It's these little tags that fold over the board that hold it all together. Okay then. That wiper, I think I can see some tiny little plastic pegs that hold that wiper. Maybe it'll come off. This bit's turning into another ordeal. On this breadboard, I'm using this as a jig to hold this bit in place. So the black plastic bit is the bit in the middle that turns, and this little metal bit is one side of the wiper, because of course there's two. It's a double pot, so that's one wiper, and if you can see, there's two tiny little holes in the metal, and they sit onto two tiny little plastic pegs, and the pressure is supposed to hold it against that plastic bit. So as you turn it, you turn the wiper against the track. I think what's happening is that the wiper is just coming off of that plastic, and the plastic's just turning, but the wiper's getting jammed in place. I put it all back together once. It took about 4 attempts to do, and I dropped one of the wipers on the floor twice. And yeah, then I put the meter across it. It was just getting just crap. It was just not right. So took it apart again, and what I've done is I've just sort of stuck that resistor leg through it just to hold it, and then I've just put the tiniest little touch of super glue on each of those little holes, just by dabbing a bit off a cocktail stick. Now, after spending a night faffing about with this pot, it's a bust. I've had this apart and back together multiple times. I've attempted to super glue the wipers onto the little actuator multiple times. You can even hear it rattling. It just breaks as soon as it's reassembled. There is no continuity between the wiper and the track, because the little wiper is just breaking off every time I reassemble it. I've super glued it twice. I've even cleaned and polished the inner track on the wafer to try and make it have better continuity, but that's not really the issue. The issue is that the little wipers are just not staying attached to the actuator at all. It's just falling apart. I can't find another one like it, so I'm going to have to call that a bust, unfortunately. I'm going to solder that back in, and I think I'm just going to find some probably about 12k resistors and just sort of bodge them across, and hopefully that will kind of fix the tone control. I have to put it back in just so that the knob is physically there. But yeah, unfortunately I can't find anything like that. It's a really unusual pot. Not certain who makes it, probably Alps or someone like that, but I can't find anything like that. If I ever do, I'll replace it, but yeah, it's one of those things. I've got to move on, so I'm going to solder that back in. There's a couple of tiny resistors just soldered across the back of there just to simulate the tone control being almost all the way up, not quite, so it's not too tinny. And as long as the control's in the middle now, tap it, I'm not getting any crackles or cutouts anymore. So I mean, it's better than it was, but I'm not going to make that tone control work, unfortunately. It's just one of those things, just going to have to take on the chin. It's a bit of a balancing act, bit of a lash up, and there is something rubbing in the mechanism somewhere. There's a couple of things I'm knocking a bit wonky, but the head is back on and I ran the demagnetizer. I've done a very rough quick alignment of speed. Just turn the scope off, and essentially it's running. So when I get reassembling this, check this rattling that's going on in the you hear that in the mechanism. Get it together kind of properly and see what's going on there. I think we're nearly there as far as we're going to get with this. Just got to finish off all the cleaning, reassembly. I'm glad the radio's better. Slowly winning. Okay, I'm at the reassembly stage. Sorry I've had to do a lot of this off camera. A lot of it was actually balanced on my bed while I was trying not to scratch it and kind of reassemble all the front speakers and glue bits of wiring down and whatnot. It's not all complete yet, but I was working on getting the obviously speakers and everything back in, and then the tape deck. I've come to realise why that sort of four-shaped piece, why that comes out. You'd think you'd kind of slot the deck in like that and then push it down like you do on sort of most boomboxes when you are assembling a chassis or a deck into a front panel. It doesn't work like that on this, because on the front you've got the counter button, so you've got to be able to get the deck straight down perpendicular to the front panel. That's why that piece comes out. So what you do is take that plastic kind of four-shaped piece out of the front case, slide it between the buttons on the deck, and then you can kind of finagle the whole thing vertically, and it will drop into place rather than trying to tuck it in and kind of push it back down. When I kind of made sense of that, I managed to get it in without much force at all. So I haven't screwed it in yet. I've literally just done that and thought I should document that. A lot of this has worn a little bit where I painted it chrome. It's not as bright as when I painted it. There's a bit of a scuff on that side on the back. It's going to happen. I think I really should have clear coated them. Someone recommended that I should clear coat them, and I didn't. They're still better than they were. They were never going to be perfect, but my concern with clear coating them was it was going to make them a bit too thick. As I've said before, if I'd have had an airbrush, I would have tried to airbrush these with a very thin coat and then probably clear coat them, but you've got a weird mix of kind of satin finishes and then gloss finishes going on. And again, the originals, as I keep saying, were not painted. They were chrome coated, probably with aluminium, in a vapor deposit method. So you can't do that at home, so you just got to paint them. So I need to get some of that wiring around a clip. It has been glued. Make sure I get the microphones back into position. That one should be alright because it's fixed. That one, this one flops around a little bit. You've got to align this screw hole, and it's got a locating pin, I think, or another screw hole, I think, like that. It's got to go behind the volume control, so I need to make sure that that ends up in the right position. Should go like that. That's it. Oh, I did manage to sort out that clicking I mentioned, by the way. That clicking noise, all it was there's a little black screw down here. You can see, not that one, but the one there just underneath it on that stop bar that crosses over there. It was a little bit loose. I think I probably should put a little dab of something on there, tiny dab of glue or something, just to, because there was some thread locker on it, just to make sure it doesn't come loose. But yeah, that was just rubbing against the flywheel a touch because it wasn't quite tightened down. It's starting to look like its former self again, although much better. Yeah, this board is not easy to get back in, and it doesn't sort of positively click when it goes in. It just sort of managed to get to a point where I thought, oh yeah, that's it. Didn't sort of scratch any of these buttons up too much. These, unfortunately, this didn't work. This is crap. The paint is just coming off from the sweat from my fingers. I should have clear coated all of them, I think, or use the silver instead of which seems to wear better, instead of the chrome, or just not bothered with the chrome and just done them all in the silver. That chrome paint doesn't seem to harden as well as the silver enamel. This isn't going to get like loads of use or anything, but even that little amount, I can see traces of the silver that's just coming off. So I've made a crap job of that, to be honest. I'm not happy with it, but the grills have come out beautiful, and now it's got the speakers in. That's going to look really nice with a little front door on there. Don't forget to get this side panel on. That just clicks under like that because there's a little lip on the edge, and then drops into place. Managed to get those switches in without those little dust covers falling out completely, but that was a bugbear. Okay, we're almost there. It's one of those really warm days where I've got to have all the windows open and everybody comes out to start doing DIY and hammering at things, so you'll hear noise in the background. Yeah, the front door and everything is all back on. It's all sort of pushed back in. Just got to get that little loop around the little peg on the inside of the door, make sure the door is clicked down into the hinges properly at the bottom. You may find it difficult to latch the door closed when the back is off, because I think the back kind of adds a bit of pressure to make sure the latch fully engages, so it's a bit difficult to get the door latch to engage when it's sort of loose. I thought I'd done something wrong at first, but it's not. It's just it gets a lot easier when the screws put the full pressure on it. That little clip at the back for the aerial, that's how it goes. I got that wrong a couple of times until I sort of had an oh dear moment, matched it up with that screw hole there, and thought, of course, you can actually see the imprint where the little mark of the board there had been pressed against this metal, and yeah, it goes underneath, it kind of bends down, goes underneath that little cutout there, goes under the antenna. The screw hole holds it together, and this little bit goes over one of these sort of screw pegs there, so that it's pressed against the antenna bit there. I did give that a clean with some contact cleaner. I think I'm just gonna spray it on a cotton bud to make sure that's all good. I think in the battery compartment, I think I've got this right. That little ribbon, I'm going to make sure you pull it through that little slot there. I'm sure that's correct. That back on. And the handle, don't forget the handle. The handle, I didn't realise at first, actually quite easy to get down and clean, because this little black piece actually just comes apart. It's just sort of press fitted together. You pull one side of it, it just unclips like that, and then there's a little peg on the other side, and it just pushes through, and then you can take it off to clean it. So it's a really simple but clever little part. Antenna had all been cleaned and everything. The back panels, of course, all been cleaned. I stuck the end of the antenna in the ultrasonic cleaner just to get the crap off from around the top of it. It's a little bit yellowed, but not massively more than any of the rest of it. So I've got no trap wiring. All that's left is the screws. Got the side piece in. So I'm not forgetting that that one where it says L20 is a machine screw. The rest are the same. Actually, before I do that, the heads of those, much like that one was, the heads of some of those screws are a bit gross. I'm going to throw them in the ultrasonic cleaner, as I did with that one, so it got some corrosion off the tops of them. That's a bit better, isn't it? I think we're done. If anyone's willing to explain how on earth they made a profit on these, please let me know, because when you think about it, I've spoken about different materials used in just the tape door. The tape mechanism seems to be made of some sort of glass reinforced plastic. There's just all this stuff going on. The speakers, the magnets are a funny shape on the bike. It only took me yesterday to realise why. They're magnetically shielded, I guess, so you can put it next to a TV. There's so much cost and complexity going on this. It was full of surprises in a positive way that I just wonder, did I judge this a little bit wrong? I thought, yeah, it was some kind of cute novelty, but is it actually a bit of a flex? Really, really surprising, like the effort they've gone to make this. It does make me wonder, was it a bit of a flex, really? Yeah, it's come out really nice. As I say, never perfect. I don't go for perfect machines. I just make them the best they can be, hopefully. I am disappointed about these buttons, but it's nothing I can't go in and have another go at in future. I was having to rush the paintwork a little bit because I was trying to do it between rain. And a friend actually suggested, why not clear coat them with a UV reactive clear coat, which if you put it under UV light it will harden, which is a really good idea. It's something I might explore in future. It's not the end of the world, as I say. It's not going to be too difficult to get that board back out and redo those at a later date, but the time is against me now. I don't want to spend much longer on this. I did, after screwing it together in the last shot, I did actually cheekily open it up again and swap the handle around, because I think this front side's a bit tidier. There's a bit of a nick on the chrome at the back. I think it's better at the back where you can't see it. But yeah, as always, took a bit longer than I expected, was a bit more involved than I expected, especially going into that mechanism to do the buttons and everything. But let's just pop the radio on, stick it in FM. Because this is Japanese, obviously the FM band starts way down at 76. It's a very small tuner band anyway, so it means the actual UK and Europe and American, I guess, broadcast band is quite squashed up on it. So it's quite fine adjustments to get the band radio tuned in there, to get the band spread on there. But
I could imagine
as a radio, it's lovely.
making a film.
It's surprisingly loud for tiny speakers. It's no bass monster, obviously.
I could see the fires in my mind.
But for a little kitchen radio or a little garden radio or something, exactly what it is, you know. It's brilliant.
Where are we going next?
Though, so scoring is a little easier out there. Eminem, and that is Houdini on Radio 1.
Radio 1 loud as hell as ever.
Today, how's your Saturday going? If you want to say hi at 03700 100 100 is the WhatsApp number.
The wide stereo button on the side, yeah, it sort of works. It does work. I think it probably makes it a little bit tinny. I think it seems to widen the treble more than the bass naturally, so it makes it a bit brighter. And I think right down at the bottom of the band, I don't think we'd find anything these days. Probably some digital stuff. Possibly some phone stuff actually. Back in the 90s and probably very early 2000s maybe you might have picked a police radio down there. I did it once.
On the 50th anniversary of Turkey's invasion of Cyprus.
But yeah, they're good. And then obviously the cassette. Not the greatest cassette player in the world, it's never going to be, but functional. You have to crank it up a tiny bit. This is on a metal tape. It does seem to take hot tapes the best, I think. But I'm not surprised in any way that the second generation that they made of this and recycled some of it was massively cost reduced, because this must have cost them a fortune to make. there's just so many different materials and bits and pieces going on, and the quality is there. It's lovely. I'm really glad I went for one of these first edition ones. It's dead cute. So anyone who's got one, as usual, I hope that's of some help. I'll put the belt sizes and stuff in video descriptions and all that jazz. Anyone who's followed along, I hope it was of some help or entertainment. There's more of these to come, as I said earlier. This was intended to be 3 machines in one video, and then this went on and on and on, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do those in a separate video. So yeah, I'll stop waffling on. Thank you for watching.